Hi guys, me again, CaliCatSquidkin. We are here today for another video in our Beginner's Guide Splatoon series. Before we did Turf War, if you haven't seen that video yet, I suggest you go check it out. If you have played a bit of Splatoon, I still suggest you check it out. If you're a pro already, I still suggest you go check it out. I mean, we need those views and subscribers. But today we'll be doing Zones, the second most simple mode in Splatoon. It'll be the most simple of the ranked modes, and yeah, let's just get into it. Now, as I said a few seconds ago, Zones is the easiest of all of the ranked modes, and it's the easiest to learn. I wouldn't say it's the easiest to play, but it's the most simple of them all. Your goal, instead of Turf War, where you have to paint the whole map, is to just paint one small area in the center. Sometimes you have to paint two. And your goal is to get the timer in the top middle to tick down to 0. In Splat Zones, whenever your team has captured the whole zone or painted the whole thing, then a timer will start in the top middle. It will be counting down, and your goal is to get that to 0. I know I've already said that, but the problem is your opponents are also trying to paint the zone, and if they have the zone, then your timer stops, and it gives you most of the points that you've just earned back. Points in this game are how low your timer gets. So let's say you get down to 30 seconds left on the point thing, and the opponents capture the full zone, then you will have to get another 50 points. And once you've taken over the zone and the opponents paint over half of it, your timer will stop counting down and it'll say zone is lost. Once the other team paints over the full thing, it'll say opponents have captured the zone. And then your points will be returned to you, or you will get those bonus points that you don't want to have. Splat Zones is also very different from Turf War in many ways besides just the objective. Number 1, well, of course, the objective. Number 2, you have 5 minutes to play this mode instead of 3 minutes like Turf War. Number 3, the timer will stop if one team gets to 0 points and the game will end there. If you want to get more specific on zones, the meta is like normal Turf War meta, where you're going to want to have your long-ranged and good weapons that can kill opponents easily, just like normal Turf War. And I know this isn't really basics guide, but like Splatana, Slosher, anything that can paint the zone while killing the opponents. There are also certain specials in Splatoon. These are called cheese specials for zones, where they can cap the zone instantly and give it to your team. And this is again more of advanced tactics and stuff, but weapons like that are Reef Slider, Ink Vac, anything that can create big explosions that can either take half of the zone or the full zone, which will make it so your opponents have to get more points. This is more of a basic tip again, but whenever one zone is captured, the timer will stop too, and you'll stop losing points. In this game, it's like golf. I've already explained that, but you don't want points. Points are bad. Each point is technically a second, but it's less than a second, so just stay in that zone. Once your team has captured the zone, usually you're going to want to push up in front of the zone into the opponent's base. You're going to want to keep long-range weapons behind, like chargers and splatlings, but if you're a shooter or a splatana or like a slosher, like I said, you're going to want to push forward and guard so the opponents can't get to your base. Well, Splat Zones is the easiest mode and the simplest mode. I actually take that back. It is not the easiest mode. For me, it is the hardest mode. All the other modes are centered around one thing, but Zones is usually centered around 2, and once those 2 things are done, there's not much to do, unless you go forward into your opponent's base, which makes it more difficult for you and the opponents. More difficult for you, not in the fact of winning, but more difficult for you to stay alive. It's also good to make sure that you have your special for whenever your opponents do make it back to the zone. With Splat Zones, it's especially important to make use of your full kit, number 1 with your main weapon, but number 2, your sub-weapon, so your bombs. Make sure that you're able to use them in the zone, and if you have something like Ink Mine, that's a good thing to throw into the zone. And for Point Sensor or Splash Wall, they're good for blocking hallways, or Point Sensor specifically, you can use it once you've pushed the other team back into their base. Make sure that you've located them for 10 seconds, so then once they get back to the zone, you can locate them. Again, with sub-weapons, beacons are also a good one for zones, especially on something like, whatever you call it, Flounder Heights, that one, where you can put them by the zone, or Brine Water, where you put them by the zone in sub-areas, or to the side, and then you can easily have you and your teammates jump into them when the opponents have control of the zone. And then you also need to make sure that you use your special well. Like I said previously, cheese specials, or you can use stuff like Trizuka and Booyah Bomb to get your opponents out of the zones. and I will explain more about these specials and how you can use them in our future videos about these specific specials. Unlike Turf War, it's very important that you try for kills against your opponents, because that will eliminate them and make it so they can't push the objective against you anymore. Unlike Turf War, where when they're alive, you're doing the same amount as them, and it's not always worth it to risk dying. But in Zones, you have 3 other teammates who, because you're in ranked mode, are going to be better than in Turf War, and they will be able to help you. And they will often be able to help you by double teaming against opponents or with their specials like Big Bubbler or Tacticooler, which are support specials that are helpful for your team but not always helpful for you. And I know this video has been quicker, but that's really all there is to Zones. Zones is an easy-ish mode that's definitely easier to play compared to the other ones, but it's harder to win and get good at. I hope you guys will check out my other video. It should be on screen right now. And subscribe, like, comment. It takes me hours to make these videos, and it takes you guys half a second to subscribe, so please consider it. And thanks for watching. Goodbye.